You have probably heard the nursery rhyme, Ring Around the Rosie. Maybe you sang it as a child. Maybe you remember holding hands, walking in a circle, and falling down at the end. It sounds harmless. Simple words, a little circle game, a song children have repeated for generations. But somewhere along the way, people began telling a darker story about it. They said the rhyme was not really about children at all. They said it was about the plague. A ring of roses, a pocket full of ashes, people falling down. Once you hear that version, it is hard not to wonder if the rhyme was hiding something much darker all along. But is that actually true? Was Ring Around the Rosie really a children's rhyme about death, disease, and one of the worst disasters in history? Or is the famous plague story something people added later? I'm Earl, the creator of Everyday Sayings and Origins. To keep each episode consistent, I use my digital likeness. Now back to the story. The version many people know goes something like this. Ring around the Rosie. A pocket full of posies. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down. It is short, easy to remember, and built around movement. Children hold hands. They walk in a circle. Then everyone falls down. That last part is probably why the dark explanation feels so believable. When the rhyme ends, everybody drops. So when someone says, that is because it is about people dying from the plague, the idea sounds shocking, but not completely random. The popular plague explanation usually goes like this. The ring around the Rosie is said to describe a red rash or mark on the skin. The pocket full of posies is said to refer to flowers or herbs people carried to block bad smells or protect themselves from disease. Then, ashes ashes is sometimes connected to burning bodies, cremation, or death, and we all fall down is taken as the final image. Everyone dies. That is the version many adults have heard. It turns a children's rhyme into a hidden message from a time of fear, and it is easy to see why people remember it. The story is dark. It is simple. It makes every line feel like a clue, but there is a problem. The evidence is not that clean. One of the first things to know is that old children's rhymes were often passed around by voice long before they were written down. That means they can change. Words shift. Lines get swapped. Children forget parts and invent others. Adults write down one version while another version is being sung somewhere else. So when people try to explain every word as if it was carefully written by one person, they may be giving the rhyme more structure than it ever had. Ring Around the Rosie has had different versions in different places. Some versions do not say ashes, ashes. Some say a tissue, which sounds like sneezing. That version makes the plague story feel stronger to some people because sneezing sounds like sickness. But other versions use completely different words. That matters. If a line is supposed to prove the meaning of the rhyme, but the line changes from place to place, then the proof becomes weaker. The rhyme may not have had one fixed meaning. It may have been more like a singing game that changed as children played it. There is also the timing problem. The plague explanation is often connected to the Black Death or later plague outbreaks in Europe, but the rhyme does not clearly appear in print from the time of the Black Death. That does not prove it could not be older. A rhyme can live by word of mouth for a long time, but it does make the confident version harder to prove. If a rhyme is truly about a major historical disaster, we would like to see some clear older evidence connecting it to that disaster. And with Ring Around the Rosie, that evidence is not strong. The dark story seems to become especially popular much later, when adults began looking back at nursery rhymes and trying to uncover hidden meanings. That is another important piece. Adults love to decode old children's songs. We hear strange words, odd images, or repeated lines, and we want them to mean something. Sometimes they do. Some rhymes are connected to old customs, politics, work songs, or folk traditions. But sometimes a rhyme is mainly a game, a rhythm, a way for children to move together. That may be the case here. The circle itself matters. Ring Around the Rosie is not only a rhyme, it is a ring game. Children move in a circle, sing together, and fall at the end. That falling part may not be about death. It may simply be the action that makes the game fun. Children's games often end with a sudden movement, a jump, a clap, a chase, a fall. The ending gives the game a little surprise. Everybody knows it is coming, and that is part of the fun. So, we all fall down may not have started as a hidden image of mass death. It may have been the moment in the game where everyone drops to the ground laughing. That does not sound as dramatic as the plague story, but it may be closer to how children actually use the rhyme. Still, it is easy to understand why the plague explanation became so popular. The words invited, a ring, roses, posies, ashes, falling down. Those images can be arranged into a dark story very easily, and once someone explains it that way, the rhyme feels different. The innocent game suddenly seems haunted. That is powerful. People remember powerful explanations even when the evidence is uncertain. The plague story also fits a larger pattern. Many old nursery rhymes have been given dark meanings. Some are connected to kings and queens. Some are linked to executions. Some are said to hide political jokes or warnings. And sometimes those claims are partly true, but other times the dark explanation is more modern than the rhyme itself. That does not mean people are lying. It means folklore keeps growing. A rhyme can have a history, and then the story about the rhyme can have its own history. That may be what happened with Ring Around the Rosie. There is the children's game. Then there is the later interpretation, and over time, the interpretation became almost as famous as the rhyme. For many people, the plague story is now the first thing they think of when they hear it. That is what makes this example so interesting. The origin may not be the plague, but the plague story has become part of the rhyme's modern life. It changed how people hear the words. It gave the rhyme a second identity. One identity is childhood play. The other is dark hidden history. And those two identities now sit side by side. So what do we do with that? We do not have to pretend the plague theory is proven, but we also do not have to ignore why people find it convincing. The smart answer is to separate two questions. First, was Ring Around the Rosie originally written as a plague rhyme? The safest answer is that we do not have strong proof for that. Second, does the plague theory explain why modern audiences find the rhyme creepy? Yes, absolutely. Because the words are flexible enough to carry that meaning once someone points it out. That is the difference between an origin and an interpretation. An origin asks where something actually came from. An interpretation asks how people understand it now. Those are not always the same thing. With Ring Around the Rosie, the plague story may be less of a true origin and more of a later interpretation that became famous because it was unforgettable. And that happens often with folklore. People do not only pass down songs, they pass down explanations. Sometimes the explanation becomes stronger than the evidence behind it. A child may learn the rhyme first. Then, years later, someone tells them the plague version. Suddenly, the childhood memory changes. The rhyme feels darker. The falling feels different. The simple circle feels like a symbol. That emotional shift is one reason the story keeps spreading. It gives adults a strange feeling. The idea that something innocent from childhood may have had a hidden meaning all along. That is a very clickable idea. But history does not always reward the most dramatic version. Sometimes the less dramatic answer is more likely. This may have been a children's ring game that collected different words over time. Some versions sounded strange, some versions changed. Later adults connected those words to plague imagery, and the dark explanation stuck because it was too memorable to forget. That does not make the rhyme boring. It makes it more human. Children played it. Adults explained it. Folklore reshaped it. And now we have a rhyme with two stories, the story of the game itself and the story people tell about the game. So, is Ring Around the Rosie really about the plague? Probably not in the clean, certain way many people say. There is not enough solid evidence to treat the plague explanation as proven. But the reason people believe it is easy to understand. The rhyme has words that feel symbolic. It ends with everyone falling. And the dark version gives the song a chilling meaning that is hard to unhear. The better answer is this. Ring Around the Rosie is most likely an old children's singing game with changing words and uncertain roots. The plague story is a famous later explanation, not a proven origin, but it became attached to the rhyme because it turns a simple childhood game into a mystery. And once a mystery attaches itself to a song, it can be almost impossible to shake loose. That is why the rhyme still fascinates people. Not because we know exactly where it came from, but because we do not. It sits in that strange space between childhood memory, folk tradition, and dark imagination, a circle of children, a simple song, a sudden fall, and a story people still argue about. If you enjoyed discovering the story behind this everyday rhyme, subscribe to Everyday Sayings and Origins. Each episode uncovers the hidden history behind the words, phrases, rhymes, and traditions we use without thinking. I'm Earl. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next origin. Peace.